of the month again where Adam comes back, as we always do, the Broad Match Show. How you doing, Adam?
Doing awesome, man. Good to see you again. It feels. I think I missed out on the last one. I was busy and tied up. You went solo, so it feels like ages since we've chatted. But good to reconnect, man.
Yeah, so you all settled into your new place now, haven't you? It's been about a month since you've been here.
Yeah, I moved in here like towards the end of June, so I'm coming up on. Yeah, geez, gosh, I think like 3 months. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can't tell you how nice and grounding it's felt to have an actual workstation again and all my belongings and just kind of getting integrated into a normal life again. It's been awesome.
Yeah. So, got plenty of topics today. Interesting one that I wanted to talk about is it was good because Bradley put out the post today, but the typical thing with LinkedIn, and this is not related to Bradley because Bradley is actually going, okay, let's put the ball down on the ground here. We had this straw man argument around keywords or traditional listing optimization and Rufus, right? And a straw man argument's been created to make sound like it's a zero sum game and you should just focus on Rufus, which is both dishonest. That's not Bradley saying that because he's saying we've got to get balance here. And I
And which
commented on the
Bradley are we
post.
talking about? Sorry, I missed the
Bradley
context.
Sutton.
Okay,
So
got it.
he
From
he'd
Human
run
Dev.
some tests, or his data science team had started to run some tests, right? And what I'm seeing a lot of is this whole game of chasing page impressions, right? And you see it, link bait, that kind of hooky headlines. And there's a straw man argument, which is dishonest because it confuses sellers. Because what people try and say is, look, ignore all the hype around Rufus. You can't just optimize for Rufus. Keywords are still important. And it's like, no one's ever said it wasn't. You see Andrew, Awana, Joe, Ritu, Max, Joanna, everyone says the same, right? It's just a layer on top. But I think because of the attention thing, people trying to create this straw man argument as if to say that's what people are saying when it's utter bullshit. What I believe it to be is these people are very intelligent. These are smart people. And there is just a straw man argument because it gets attention. Someone's going to read their post, they get more page impressions. Do you understand what I mean? And you've been there before yourself, like as someone who's put out content for a number of years. I've been doing it, you know, 8 years now. And what I've always noticed is that once people go down that road, they lose their sense of self, right? So then what happens is a post does really well, or a video does really well, or a reel does really well. And then it's like, then it all goes back to normal. You go back to your same reach again. And it's like, I really like that. That was a nice feeling because you get that buzz, right? The dopamine hit. And then it's like, it goes quiet again. It slows down again. A week goes past. Your reach is back at its previous point as it was before. So you go peak and then drop back exactly where you were before. And it's like, do I do another post like that? Or do I step it up? Do I do something, get a bit more attention? Do I create a bit of controversy? And I think what happens, it sneaks up on people. And unfortunately, some people lose their sense of self in that and they don't know how to separate themselves. So I'm not saying this from a point of view of going after people. I'm just saying is that it's a slippery slope when you go that way. Plus, it's dishonest for sellers because they're confused enough, some of them, not all, right? Because again, I'm not going to insult the intelligence of sellers. They're very smart or they wouldn't be doing what they do, right? But I think it needs to be said is that I'm seeing more and more of these posts and it's just bait, basically. It's not true. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I've got an interesting. I mean, I've got a perspective because I've gone through that journey myself. I mean, all of us do it in our own way, but I would say there's different stages to a journey like this when you start to kind of put out content and kind of expose your ideas to the world. and it oftentimes starts in I would call it a hybrid between there's a lot of purity to it,
Hmm.
and then there's imposter syndrome. So it's
Right.
like, hey, like first of all, you start out as a consumer of information. You start to kind of
Yeah.
see what's out there. All of us come up in the game by learning what's out there, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn,
Mm.
whatever your medium is for that. And then you kind of start to come into your own and start to. And I think what you said is very true. The most people that put out content are really sharp
Mm.
because it takes a lot of balls if you've got them. Um, it takes a lot of thought to put stuff out there that's valuable. And so I think it starts from a very pure place. Like, hey, I learned a lot from stuff, put it out there. You have this kind of imposter syndrome. Like, you're not part of the cool club, but you're like, I'm going to put stuff out. And then I think it slowly builds up over time and you get momentum, you get wins, you get impressions, you get kind of that feedback loop in place. And it feels good. First of all, it's a growth and it's an accomplishment, which is a very healthy form of dopamine. You put a lot of effort, hard work in, you create something of value, and then you start to see fruits of that. And that's a very positive dope. That's how we're designed in a healthy way to derive dopamine.
Mm.
I think the challenge is that the pendulum can swing the other way if you're not rooted and you don't understand who you are and you don't have an internal locus of control.
Yes.
And I think when it's gotten away from me, when I started out in that pure place, it was an internal thing. It was, man, this is just fulfilling. I'm building on myself. I'm helping people. It's like, it was very true and pure.
Mm.
But then and I don't want to say that it's like, it flips into these people are like narcissists and whatever. And that isn't what happened to me, but it absolutely can get to a point where, like an Amazon sales thing, oh crap, sales are down from what they used to be.
Mm.
In this case, impressions, action, comments. Okay, so you keep on doing another couple and then still kind of lackluster. Maybe you're busy, maybe you have stuff in your personal life. You're not really centered when you create the content, so the creation process is tainted. That
Mm.
reflects, and it kind of gets into this death spiral. And unfortunately, if you've had enough air quote success or metrics that make you feel like you're doing what you need to do, and those go away,
Mm.
and you don't have an internal locus of control, then you're lost because it's
Yeah.
like my perceived identity and where I derive satisfaction, at least in the career elements of my life, goes away. And then you see the spiral happen, right? Either
Mm.
people burn out, they create content that just isn't aligned and they don't feel good about it, and then they stop creating content.
Mm.
Or they try to, like you said, sensationalize, ratchet it up, which doesn't come from that pure place anymore. And then that's where you kind of get more cancerous behavior at
Mm.
play. So again, it's not a place of judgment. And I think we've seen this too with like the comment, whatever, to get my flow. And I think
Mm.
that's totally fine to do that every once in a while. But then it's like, well, crap, I had 180 comments on that last one. So I got to do another flow. And then
Yeah.
it becomes every post becomes this. And I just feel like it's an unsustainable level of energy and in some cases negativity that takes over. And the sad part is that when you get down in those quiet moments when you just have yourself, when you close your eyes at night,
Mm.
you realize that you're not being true to yourself. And that's where it becomes a really difficult challenge for folks. So yeah, no judgment, man. I mean, I've been through it and I've seen the cycle, and it's unfortunately fairly predictable, but it comes down to why are you doing, what's the intention? And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you can't have intentions to create content to build your business, etc. But if it becomes always externally focused, that story doesn't end well.
Yes. And I think what we've got to be absolutely clear here, because this is the part where people will talk about, you know, it's okay to have opinion. Of course it is. This isn't a discussion about opinions and freedom of speech. Absolutely. But also remember that freedom of speech comes with accountability, right? So it's okay to say how you feel. It's okay to put your message out there, but you also got to think is that you have to be accountable for your words. Do you understand? And what I'm trying to say here is healthy discussion is brilliant. That's how people learn. Some people don't want to know, right? They've got their narrative and they'll die on that hill, right? So they're, and I think discussion is very healthy if it's done in the right manner. But when it's done for page impressions, it's disingenuous. And like you said, it's only going to lead to a slippery slope. And we know this, and I can only speak for men. Men are held accountable for their words, right? We get checked. I get checked. You get checked, Adam. We keep each other in check. I've got friends that keep us in check. Do you understand? So I want to make sure that when people understand this conversation, we're not saying people shouldn't talk about it. We're not saying that people shouldn't be heard. What we're saying is, what is the root of this? You know, you can't say these things and try and say that you're trying to be helpful when really your end goal is to get attention. Now, we live in a world where attention is the main currency, and everyone's dopamine is split across screens and different subjects. So that becomes a lot more scarce, right? And then when you've got an area where it's noisy, then people have to get louder and get louder and louder. And as I said, I think this stuff does creep up on people and then they hit the wall. Do you know what I mean? Because the psychological thing, let's say that you are invested in your own status, in your business, you know, your career, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a musician, whether you're a business owner or an entrepreneur. Do you see what I mean? It's a very dangerous place to go when the lights come down, the music goes off, and you're the last one left on the dance floor. It becomes a very dark, lonely place for people. And I think having a healthy sense of self is something that you do the work yourself. And then it's good to question your own behaviors, right? And be a bit more self aware about what you do and say, well, why do I have this incessant need for this level of attention? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
And that's the
great
other
point.
thing, because sometimes it's not just about putting out the content. You've got to think about frequency. Let's say they've got it in their head, they must post every single day because that's what the algorithm says, right? But what about if you don't have something to say? Are you going to start sitting there panicking at home or wherever you are? Oh, I've got to get a post out. Must do this. Got to get a video out. If not, what happens to my self-esteem? And there's that slippery slope as well, right? So it's really about checking in with yourself or have people around you that, and I say this about friends, a true friend isn't an enabler. A true friend is willing to risk your relationship for the greater good, right? So they have to say things to you, don't have to be unkind with their words. But a true friend is when you can tell them and pull them up on their bullshit, right? And at first you might not like it, and eventually you do get used to it when you have to eat your humble pie. But enablers won't tell you, they'll encourage you to do it. They'll say they're your friends, but they won't be honest with you. And you've got to be open enough to see other point of views and look at your own behavior. I don't want to get on a deep one, but that's why I wanted to have this conversation. This isn't about mudslinging or anything else. And I haven't said anything. And it's the same with Andrew and Awana, right? Everyone's going to have their slant. Yes, we do more of the science end of things. People do more of the proven strategy. There's room for everyone. People do observations. But I think tearing down each side and dismissing it because it doesn't fit your narrative isn't a healthy conversation either. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make that point. And I've always said, like with Awana and with Andrew, as you know, they come to me. I mentor them. They run everything by me out of choice. I don't tell them what to do, but they look to me for level guidance as young, you know, entrepreneurs and business owners in this industry. And I always say to them, look, chase excellence, not page impressions. Okay? Doesn't mean you're going to become the best, but if you chase excellence and search for the truth versus being right and accept when you're wrong, own it. You say you're wrong. Okay, got that wrong. You make an adjustment. You say, here's where we went wrong. This is where we need to improve. And I think you've got to get past that as well. What do you want? Do you want to be right? Or do you want to get to the truth? Because the science end of thing for us isn't about being right, it's about getting to the truth. And it's helping others get to the truth. And then what will happen is, as people pick up our work, other people's work, and they review it, they will see stuff we don't see. Then they share that. Then that person's helped us all get to the truth. So you've got to decide what you want. Is it about your profile, being an expert, etc.? Or do you want to get to the truth? It's fine. I'm not judging you. You've got to work out that for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
an analogy I was thinking about last week, I saw a really interesting YouTube story on like the greatest theft in music that ever took place, but the Verve Bittersweet Symphony, some boys from the
yes.
UK,
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful song.
Hmm.
They sampled something from, I can't remember which band it was. Um, anyway, it was like one of these like sharky kind of New York entertainment lawyers licensed it to them. I want to say it might have been the Rolling Stones, but I don't quote me on that. Anyway, they took the sample, basically the strings part of Bittersweet Symphony, and the thing is that band, I think it was the Rolling Stones. It might have been another one. Actually, sampled it from somebody else way back when. But anyway, what ended up happening was is they cornered the Verve. They took away all of the rights to the song, and they basically didn't make any money on that song, which is one of the biggest songs of all time, certainly coming out of the UK, other than like Oasis and Blur.
Mm.
And it was like for 15, 20 years they didn't make any money. Anyway, the lawyer ended up dying. They ended up getting the rights back. But I think I akin it to a song. I feel like the Amazon ecosystem, the algorithm, the things that work, the truths that come out, the golden rules, they're basically like chords.
Mm.
And yes, there is a definitive kind of set of chords that we all kind of end up using, and it kind of
Mm.
themes around the music, you know? Blues has a very specific signature of scales and chords. Rock music does. Pop
Yeah.
music does. They all kind of they're it's all chords, but they start to thematically kind of orient around certain things, the rhythms, the way things come together. And I feel like, and I've had some clanging of the paddles with people in the industry, kind of taking a concept that they had kind of riffed on, building on that. Somebody
Mm.
else builds on mine, whatever else.
Yeah.
And I feel like for some reason, there becomes this ownership mentality, like I own the truth because I came up with this. We all use the same four chords. I use
Mm.
these four chords in this way. That's
Yeah.
mine. Anything else that's not those four chords played in that way is incorrect.
Mm.
When somebody else comes along and maybe they take those four chords and they add it to a different rhythm, and like we're all doing, we're kind of ebbing in the same truths because ultimately the truths have to exist, whether it's scientific, pragmatic, case study based, whatever.
Yeah.
There is a truth that starts to emerge, and I
Mm.
feel like part of the problem is that none of us are original. None of these
No, no,
concepts we created. We are just
no.
either observing, playing with, or taking it from a certain angle and playing the chords in the way that we feel like sounds the best. And we put that in the world, and it's beautiful. It's a creative exercise. Business is a creative exercise.
Yeah.
I think where it becomes negative and cancerous is when you come in and you say, no, I invented all of these chords. This
Mm.
is the only way that you can play them. And this
Yeah.
is how the song is going to sound forever and ever and ever. And that's
Yeah.
the dangerous mea culpa that I think starts to happen when
I
things
love
go awry.
I love the way you use the analogy there. We could probably apply the same analogy to ranking overall, right?
100%.
Imagine, so let's just say expert at ranking. We have to be very careful with the language. And I'm going to use an analogy now because we're all non-mechanics that can turn the key in the engine and hear it and observe the sound. Yeah? Do you understand what we're saying?
100%.
We're all non-mechanics that can turn the engine over and observe the sound. But we can't fix the car because we don't know how the car works properly
Yeah.
because we're not mechanics. That's again, and then that goes into that the status bubble positioning, of expert. This is why I always say to the young guys, I'm like, look, be a student of the game. Focus on being a student of the game because the more I've learned about ranking, the less I know. And you know who's got a great saying who says it all the time is the Oracle, Steve Simonson. right? Uncle Steve. Everyone goes to Uncle Steve, probably one of the most successful people that we mostly know, right? And he helps a lot of sellers and stuff. And his favorite quote is, I know nothing about nothing, but he's the guy you go to because he knows everything about everything. Yet he will tell you he knows nothing about nothing. And that is a sign also of pure intelligence because he's smart enough to realize there's a big thing out there. Yeah. And I'm not saying this again, you can't say you're not an expert. I understand there's marketing. I get all that. And there's no question that. And it's not a slight on anyone. But I think we all have to have a check in with ourselves to make sure it don't all go Hollywood. Do you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
king of this, the queen of that, the Robin and Batman of this, that, and the other. Have to be a bit careful. We're tadpoles in the Amazon pond. When we go and take our shopping, and you in your world, grocery shopping, and walk down the road, who gives a fuck about atomized? No
Yeah.
one.
No, literally. Yeah.
No one.
Even in
And
the
when
even
you
in the space
remember
that we
that,
reside in, people don't care. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
that, and do you know what? There's a difference between respect, admiration for your work, and then a desire for attention at all costs. Right? We want to be respected for the work that we do. We work hard, right? We're proud of what we achieve. There's nothing wrong with that. But once it crosses into excessive validation, that's when you're going to start to lose a sense of self. And you have to
Yeah.
be really careful of that, you know? And that's why it's having good people around you that will always tell you the truth for the greater good, whether you like it or not. And also, you have to accept to be on the receiving end of that. Yeah? You know, people
Yeah.
say things to me, you know. Anyway, sorry.
No, yeah, and I think like one other point or one of my last points on this topic is, a quote I love is Gary Player, the harder I work, the luckier I get. So
Yeah.
I want to be clear that I believe that action is very predictive of what future results are. Basically, what action is it gives you more surface area and it improves your probability.
Yeah.
It's more at bats, it's more reps. And if you do enough of that, there's enough surface area that you're going to find success. So I don't want to say that success is luck, but I think it's really important for people as Amazon sellers, as somebody putting out content to see what hits and what doesn't, all the rest of it. Talent matters. Groundedness matters. Having what you do created from a place that's pure, that matters. But there's a shitload of luck involved.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think there's luck, there's timing, there's sequencing. And so I think the other thing that I try to do is say, hey, look, I believe that when I really dig in and put my mind to something, like it's going to happen. It may not happen how I think it's going to happen or in the sequence or in the timing, but it probably will happen if I, do what I need to do. I have discipline. I'm rooted in the right place. But I think a lot of people forget that even if they're doing all the right things, sometimes it's a timing game. And I think that there's a lot of luck that's involved in this, whether a post goes viral, whether your business is successful, whether your product launch goes well. And I feel like when you believe that it's you and you alone that creates the external feedback loops or fortunes that beget you over time, that's a very dangerous place to be because you matter, but you don't matter as much as you think.
Yeah.
And it's about the process, the repetitions, and yes, directionally you're going to find your way there. But that doesn't solve for the valleys because there's going to be valleys in addition to peaks. And sometimes the valleys aren't explicitly a result of your talent or what you did or what you didn't do. It just is the way it was for that moment in time. And so I think having a little bit of humble pie as well to realize that yes, you matter, but you don't matter in all of the outcomes as much as you think. And some of it, you just kind of got to let go of the steering wheel, be connected, and let the river take you where it's going to take you.
Yeah, I mean, you laid down a perfect point when we talked about time and everything else. In the last 10 years, tell me if you can count on more than one hand how many sellers had a success and either surpassed that success with another brand, or did they fall by the wayside? Tell me sellers who came out of the exit boom that have gone on to repeat that success. Tell me about sellers that have killed it in one category, launched in another, done everything right, everything, right? They followed it to the letter, and their experience, they're great operators and everything else, fucking didn't hit the needle, right? It didn't do it. And we did a show about 4 years ago. There was me, Ellis, there was Evelyn Demirov, and a couple of other people in there. There is a luck involved, right? And that is why there is a 1%, okay? And let's look at proven strategies. Proven strategies are quite often, nearly all the time, a moonshot or an edge case. What do I mean by that? If proven strategies work, every listing you optimize will be at the top of search and you'd be killing it. You wouldn't have it at 80-20 in your business. You wouldn't have the top 20 doing the business with the also rans. Pareto's law almost runs across every Amazon business I see. Do you understand? And there is luck involved and timing. What if you were killing it in 2015, 16, 17, 18? Where would you fare now? Let's be real. It's a tougher, different world, timing, different market, different brands. So much. And that's what we've got to understand, right? Is if that was all true about a proven strategy only has to be proven once, right?
Yeah.
And there are stuff that will be proven more than that, but you wouldn't have any failed products otherwise, because all you keep doing is rolling out the same few proven strategies that work for everyone else that give you an 80% uplift in your conversion rate because you did this one clever trick to the image, right?
Yeah.
In your different category on a different day, on a different product, on a different color, with a different price point, with a different quality of item. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So we have to remember that. And I do understand about marketing and people leveraging and edging. That's not what I'm saying. I just think we have to, the greatest thing I think you can have right now as a seller is critical thinking. Question everything. That's a smart thing to do. And then make your own decisions. It's simple as that. Yeah.
Yep.
Anything more to add on this before we
No,
we
it's a
move
good
on?
topic. It's an important one.
Cool. All right. And big love to everyone out there. This isn't a slight or attack. I just want to put the ball back on the ground as an old man. I'm 50 soon. So I think it's just important. Let's just see through it, and everyone can crack on and do their thing. They don't have to be the divide and conquer. I know it's good for page impressions, and that we know that car crash TV. Let's not turn our community into a car crash TV show. Do you know what I mean? We don't need to. Got some good, smart people. Let's build on stuff. Moving on. You want to talk through some of the conversion rate stuff that you've been picking apart?
Yeah, well, speaking of content, I haven't posted much at all on LinkedIn, but I've been involved with the business for, man, I think it's at least 3 years. Maybe it's a little bit more, but
Is it
anyway,
been that long?
yeah, it's been a long time. So basically, super interesting business, 9-figure plus, just like absolute savages operationally. Like it's a really cool business. Thousands and thousands and thousands of SKUs. Most listings have 100 plus child ASINs. And so we were looking at some of the data, and kind of a perplexing thing, because most of the catalogs that I've built myself, in fact, all the catalogs I built myself, have never had more than 20 SKUs.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that I started from scratch. I've been involved in larger businesses that had obviously lots of SKUs as well. But so I've always seen my organic conversion rate fairly significantly higher than pay-per-click. Just it tends to be the case. If you're getting organic sales that's coming from keywords that you rank well for, if you rank well for a keyword, it's likely that you have high relevance, solid conversion rate, sales velocity, all the things that Amazon likes. Whereas pay-per-click, you're going after those relevant words as well, but you're maybe kind of chipping around some longer tail stuff, trying to kind of find other spaces, right? So this is different though. This was a case where the pay-per-click conversion, and again, this isn't small scale looking at a handful of SKUs. We're talking across thousands of SKUs, hundreds of millions of sessions, that big. And the conversion rate was over 10% on pay-per-click, and it was less than 5% on organic. And I was like, that's really weird. I could see that for a particular ASIN, but to see that across a catalog that big was very perplexing. So I kind of posted kind of what I was thinking and whatever on LinkedIn, got hundreds of comments. I was really actually blown away because I haven't posted much. Oftentimes the algorithm doesn't really show stuff to people if you don't post much, but I was really appreciative and humbled by the amount of feedback I got that was really genuine. It was nice. But effectively, what I'm starting to learn is if you've got a large catalog specifically, especially if you've got a lot of variations, what tends to happen using Pareto's thing, maybe you've got thousands of SKUs, hundreds or dozens of variations, but there's the hero that's always going to kind of be the thoroughbred, right? It's going to be the one that's going to rank for most of the more generic, larger terms. And it's typically where you're going to get most of your sales velocity, where you're going to drive a lot of your pay-per-click. And then there's going to be basically in those situations, the child variations basically act as spillover traffic. So point number one that kind of uncovered through that conversion exercise is basically understanding, number one, that the advertising report tracks data differently than your business report. And I still haven't kind of fine-tuned this exactly, but what it's looking like effectively is if you click on an ad, say for the hero ace, and you come in, I jump around on maybe a handful of variations, and then I end up buying one of them. It's going to look one-to-one. So one click, one conversion. That's what, and then there's going to be the people that click and don't buy anything.
Yeah.
Versus in a business report, organic setting, somebody comes in on, say, your hero that's ranked for a specific term. I click around to maybe different colors or different sizes or whatever your variant type is. And all those are counting on sessions. So one of it is kind of some interesting reporting nuances that it sounds like some people were saying in Seattle that Amazon's going to try to tidy that up. Because it's really hard when you're pulling it. You basically have business report data, which has everything. You've got ad report data, which has specific to ads. But making the two jive is difficult. But the other thing that was interesting, I think this is a cautionary tale that I think is very common for a lot of us, but a lot of time in Pareto's world, which is very important, you need to focus on the 20% of ASINs that drive 80% of the volume, and you'd be stupid not to. Those are the ones that you can't stock out of. The best members of your team need to be on there. You need to really be hyper-focused on pay-per-click, all the things that go into managing those. But what tends to happen is you just neglect the other ones. And I'll give you an example in this circumstance. Like, spent a ton of time working with Dorian and a bunch of other stuff over 6 months, basically tidying up and optimizing conversion rate.
Yeah.
On the heroes, because again, if you've got a SKU that's bringing 800 grand a month, you're not going to really put as much time into one that's bringing in 5. It's just the law of averages. You only have so much time. But the problem is like just not even carrying those optimized images over to the variants, like a very simple exercise. So I think the reporting complexities was one thing that drive. The other thing that was interesting to me is just like, look, don't forget about the down catalog items that you've got, or the ones that are break even, or the ones that aren't doing well. Sometimes it's fairly quick, easy little shifts and fixes that can actually bring those ones back. And so what came out of that was kind of, and we can kind of, maybe this is a good lead into the next topic, Danny, if you've got one, but started building an app in Lovable where we can basically dump some of the data from Seller Central in there, consolidates a lot of it for us, and kind of derives these learnings so I can see what child ASINs, what parentages need to be optimized based on traffic and how much they deviate from a standard conversion rate. Yeah. But I want to say it took me about 2 or 3 hours, but whether you use Claude or whether you use Lovable, for folks that don't know, Lovable is basically a platform AI that helps you build sites, tools, apps. It's amazing what you can do. Like, you can basically customize anything in your business. And so it's been a really exciting journey, kind of taking some of these problems and Frankenstein them. How do I solve this? And there's a lot of creativity that is now enabled for non-technical people to be really, really creative technically. And I think that's been an exciting kind of path, but maybe we'll hear what's up in your world and maybe leading into what you're kind of doing for December.
Well, I'm just going through taking all the data that you got there. So I run it through Claude Desktop at first, because they've got the new reporting feature. And so what I did is I summarized all the reports in your app and then looked at some gap analysis there. But really, it was just, that was to set the tone for running them through Claude Code, and just got some information back. I'm going to give this to you, what the pattern agent recognized. So I've built I built 12 agents which are sub-agents, right? So using Claude code in the terminal, no, I can't code. I know what / compact is, which means you compact the conversation and the context, and I know how to type Claude, and then I know how to use this and get what I want out of it. But it was it's so much more powerful than the desktop, because a lot of people's complaints now with Claude is not just the cost, but the context window. And once you get to a stage when you've been doing a lot of this work and you're setting your products up, like your project, sorry, and you've got your markdown files, you've got your PRDs, and then you've got your design system for your app and for your build, etc. You max out the conversations really quickly. But one of the things that I'll set up after this call, because I need to do it for a team member, is to implement the use of the context from Gemini, because you can have the context window of 1 million. It's a bit fiddly to set up with MCPs, but that will do away with a lot of the issues that you get with the cap on Claude Desktop. But moving on to I'll read these out, but I won't use keywords so it doesn't give anything away. So what the pattern agent is revealed, the pattern recognition agent found non-obvious patterns that explain the conversion rate gap. Number one, traffic volume inversely correlated with conversion rate for said keyword, which we'll see, and then predictive model 3 to 5 variables explain 19 to 43% invariance. The next one was critical threshold, identified 1,800 impressions and a spend of 609, and then leading indicators discovered traffic spike, then the next day a conversion rate drop. And then the last part of this is multi-day momentum effects, 3-day trend predicting of performance. So this is actionable